back to the channel, folks. This is episode 3 of the guitar build series. In our last episodes, we did the top and the rosette and all that. Looks really good. And I went ahead and did the back too, just the same way as the top. But obviously there's no rosette on the back. But I joined it and sanded it the exact same way as the top. So those are good to go for now. But today what we're gonna do is bend the sides of this guitar. So we got our sets of mahogany here. Right.
Have we already talked about what type of woods these are?
Yeah, I think so. This is Cuban mahogany, if you're just tuning in.
What about this stuff?
That is torrefied Sitka spruce. Okay. So bending sides, especially if it's your first time doing it, can be really scary because we're gonna take this flat board and turn it into a guitar shape, basically. But it's really not too bad if you just take it slow and just don't force anything. So first of all, what you got to do is called book matching the sides. So you want them to be the same. I wouldn't want it to be like that, right? You want them to be book matched like this, okay? So some people will bend their sides when it's just a rectangle like this, but that leaves a lot more work in the long run. So what I like to do is take a template I made, okay, 14 fret dreadnought, and as you can see, it's kind of got this weird curve shape to it. But if you didn't know, a guitar is thinner where the neck is, and it's a little bit thicker at the end. So what this does is you can just trace this out, and then your sides are already the right shape, or pretty close to the right shape anyway. So what you can do is just lay it down on the sides anywhere you want to, and then you just trace that out and cut it out. So that's what I'm gonna do. I think that looks pretty good right there. So literally I'm just gonna take a Sharpie and I'm just gonna trace all the way around this. Okay. See that? So now we got the shape of our side. Yeah. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is tape these together so that I can do it all in one cut. Instead of having to cut both sides, I can do it all at one time. So I'm gonna put a few pieces of tape on here.
So are these like specific measurements? Like this is a specific amount of inches thick on this side and that side?
Yeah, so normally a dreadnought, 14 fret dreadnought is usually 4 inches at the neck and then 5 inches at the end of the guitar. And this is probably a little less because you got to remember your top and your back are about an 1/8 inch thick. So you leave the sides about a 1/4 inch thinner than you need it to be. So when you glue on these, it gets about to the right thickness. So that's kind of what you shoot for anyway. All right, so I got them taped together. Now I'll just take this to the bandsaw and I'll just cut it out right on those lines. Okay, so we got it cut out. Get my tape off of here.
Did it take you a lot of practice on the bandsaw to be able to cut so smoothly?
Yeah, it does take a little practice to be able to cut right on the lines like that, but it's really not too bad. So now, what happens is if you open them up like that, now you have a perfect match. See that? Looks pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what I'm gonna do, and the reason it's curved like this is gonna be on the back. So if you look at it that way, I don't know if you can get that. The back of the guitar has a pretty good bit of radius on it. So that's why we cut that little curve in there. But the top, or the top's gonna be, I want this to be perfectly flat. And I got it pretty close on the bandsaw, but I'm gonna run this on the joiner right quick and just get a perfectly flat line. So we'll do that right quick.
What is this piece of equipment called?
It's called a jointer. So it basically gets a perfectly flat edge on a piece of wood. So I'm just gonna run these right across it like that, and it'll give me a nice flat edge.
Because that's where you cut it and it's a little rough.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So anyway, here we go.
Can we see the results?
And that's it. So now, I open these back. You can see how nice and straight they are. Right, pretty good.
So much better.
Zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Yeah, there you go.
That rough edge compared to that.
Like up here. Yeah. See how you got a really nice joint. Okay. So, we're not quite ready to bend these. They're a little bit too thick. So, people have different ways of doing it. Or different thicknesses, I should say. I like to get my sides about 80 to 85 thousandths thick. And right now, these are about 120. So they're a little bit too thick to bend. If your sides are too thick and you try to bend them, they might crack. There's a better chance of cracking. But if they're too thin, then you don't have room to sand your sides later on. So normally the range is like 70 to 90 thousandths, in that range. So I think 80 to 85 is a pretty good middle ground. So we're just gonna run them through the sander a few times and get them down to that thickness. And we'll be ready to bend. Okay, so we sanded the sides on the drum sander, and it was probably, I don't know, 5 minutes or something. It didn't take long. And we got these to about 85 thousandths. So you can see they're pretty thin, but there's still a little bit of meat on there. But now they're kind of springy and wobbly. So these are ready to bend. So when you bend, you have to know where the waist of the guitar is going to be. And the waist of the guitar is right here, the thinnest point. So on my little pattern I made, I drew the line where the waist is going to be. And if you really want to know, it is about 11 inches roughly from the edge. So what I'm going to do is take my pencil and I'm going to put my pattern on my side here. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Put it on my side. I'm going to mark right where that line is. Okay. Now I can just put them together and then make a mark on this one.
So this is marking what again?
The waist, where it's going to be this little bend right there. That's called the waist because it's the thinnest point.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm going to draw a square line on this one right there. Just make a mark at the bottom. Because when they're in the bender, these sides are going to be facing up. So this is what you're going to see. You're not going to see this face, you're going to see this one. And you can choose, it could be either one, doesn't matter. Whatever looks better. So what I like to do, because when you're in the bender, you got to see those lines, but that's pretty much impossible with a pencil. So I just take a little piece of orange tape and I put it right where that line is on both of them. That way I can see where my sides are at in the bender. Okay. So now these sides are pretty much ready to go, ready to bend. So yeah, I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so this side is ready to bend. So I've got my bending slat here. I'll show you all about the bender here in a second. But, so what I do is put my side on the slat. And so to make the wood bend, you need two things. You need heat and you need moisture. More heat than moisture, but you need a little bit.
What exactly is a slat?
Well, it's just what they call these metal things in the bender.
Oh.
Bending slat.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who comes up with the names of these things. I just use them.
Okay.
So, I'm just going to take a little bit of water, and it doesn't take much. Some people will literally take their side and like dunk it in a pool of water and soak it for hours and hours. You don't need to do that. All you got to do is take a little squirt bottle, and I just squirt a little bit of water. That's literally it. And I just take a rag and kind of wipe it all down evenly. And there you go. That's all you got to do as far as the water goes. So now we'll go over to the bender and put it in the bender. All right. So
This is the bender.
this is the bender.
Wow.
I did not make this. I got it from Blues Creek Guitars. Yeah, they've got a really awesome YouTube channel. If you want to check him out. But you could build one of these if you wanted to. So see this tape here? I want that tape to be right in this gap. That's where the waist is. So the reason I do that is just so I can see it, all right? So now I'm gonna put another slat on top, just like that. Okay.
So there's a slat on each side.
And then I have this. This is a heating blanket.
Hmm.
That's what gets it hot. So I put it on the top. I don't put this right on the wood because it'll kind of indent the wood with this little texture, so I don't do that. All right, so it's kind of like a little guitar wood sandwich kind of thing. And I clamp it together just so it all stays where I want it.
How hot does the heating blanket get?
Well, that's a good question.
Do you want me to get off it?
No, you're good. I get it. The hottest I get is about 300. But
Oven temperatures.
yeah, it could probably go to like 450 or something, I bet. So now I've got this little thing. That'll go on the waist. Get it up there. Alright. So now I'll crank this down just a little bit just to keep it in place. Not much. I'm gonna make sure my piece of tape, watch out there.
I can stand right here.
Yeah, make sure my piece of tape is where I want it to be. It's a little bit too far back. Yeah, so I got it right in the middle now. I'm looking, that little piece of tape is right in this gap. I highly doubt you can see that, but it's there.
I believe you.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn this thing on.
The blanket.
Turn the blanket on. Full power, gonna rip it. And this just came with the bender, so now I'm gonna use this thermometer. Turn it on. I'm gonna put it right under here. And you can see that'll start climbing in temperature pretty
You just
quick.
put it right under the blanket.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, watch out. Okay, now I've got these little handles. Okay, and they're gonna go on each side, and that's what's gonna bend the upper bout and the lower bout. So,
I feel like this is one of those pieces of equipment you need to make a guitar. Like if you don't have this, it's not gonna happen.
well, it helps, that's for sure. But some of the old school guys would actually take a pipe, like a 6-inch pipe, and they put a blowtorch inside of it, and they bend it by hand.
Is that like probably how it was done originally?
Probably before they had these. And some guys still do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until that gets to about 240, and then we'll start bending it. Yeah, but this is a great tool to have. Like I say, you could make this, but I got it for Christmas one year, so I didn't have to buy it. It's a little bit of money for sure, but it takes a lot of the guesswork out of
Couple grand.
Oh God, no.
Couple hundred.
Now StewMac does make one that's like $2,000. Can't say I recommend that. It's a lot of money. I'm sure it works great, and StewMac's awesome, but they're really expensive. Okay, so see our temperature? We're almost at 240. It climbs up there pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're there pretty much. So now I'm just gonna start cranking this waist down, just slowly. I'm not gonna force anything. And this whole process really doesn't take all that long.
How do you know how long to crank it?
Just until it's all the way down. You can see it. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So it's all the way down. Now I'm gonna do the lower bout. So I'm gonna take this handle and I'm just sort of gonna walk it. I'm not gonna like slam it down. I'm just gonna slowly walk it. Okay, and if I feel the wood fighting me, I'll slow down. But mahogany It's pretty easy to bend most of the time. It doesn't give you too much trouble.
So some wood bends easier than others.
Yeah, for sure. Mahogany's pretty soft, not very dense compared to like some rosewoods and ebony and stuff. All right, now do the same thing here and just walk it down. Take this clamp off of there.
Looking like a guitar.
There we go, and that's it. So I'm gonna turn this off and unplug it for safety. And you can see I'm at like 310 degrees right now. So I can take that out. And that's all there is to it. I'm gonna let this cool down to about room temperature. It takes like 30 minutes or something. But you can see I bent that whole side. How long did that take?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, yeah.
How long does it sit there?
For about 30, until it comes down to room temperature.
And then it should be permanently bent.
Pretty much, yeah. So in about 30 minutes we'll come back and take this out of the mold and we'll see how we did. Okay folks, so this has been in there for about 30 minutes and it is completely cooled down. So yeah, now it's time to take it out of the bender. And believe it or not, more sides break taking it out of the bender than it does actually bending it, believe it or not.
Has that happened to you?
I've broken one set of sides because it was like a cutaway guitar and those were really hard to bend. But besides that, I've never really had any issues. So what I do is I take this clamp first and I just sort of ease it back. And then I do this one. Okay. And then I unscrew the waist clamp. Alright, take that out. Take my blanket off, my other slat. And then I kind of turn it. Well, pick it up. Sometimes I have to turn it sideways like that to get it to come out.
But basically be very careful to
Yeah, pretty much. But there you go. Now,
wow.
So there is a beautiful bent side. And always inspect it when you finish bending. Always look for any cracks, any warping, whatever. And I don't see hardly anything. This came out really good. And you might notice like those little black dots along there. That's just from the heat and the moisture.
Let me get a better view. Will they go away?
Yeah, those will sand right off.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about those.
All right.
But one thing I like to do is take a little straight edge and just run it along and just see how flat you are. And in this case, this is like perfect. Sometimes what can happen is right here, it can cup a little bit. So I always check for that. And that's pretty much dead flat.
What would you do if it cupped?
Well, you'd have to, after you assemble the body, you'd have to sand a lot of material off the edges to get it flat. But the best thing to do is just avoid it. I found that it cups when you add too much water. At least that's been my experience. But yeah, so now you can see this fits very nicely in the mold. We're pretty close anyway. We'll get it to fit. But anyway, so that's basically how you bend the side.
Now you gotta do the other side.
Yeah, we'll do the other side, but it's literally the same process. So, yeah, that's probably what we'll call it today, I would guess. In the next episode, we'll have two bent sides and we'll glue on the blocks to each one, and we'll get it set in the mold. So there we go, there's episode 3, and thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.